Hey everyone, back tonight with chapter 11 of Isaiah, and it says this: the righteous reign of the branch. Of course, the branch is being, of course, Christ. It says, there shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit. And the Spirit of the Lord, the Holy Spirit, shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide disputes by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equality for the meek of the earth. And he shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. There you go. Christ kills. Just told you. The Bible tells you. People that say Jesus would never do that they have no idea who Christ is. They have no idea who Christ is. They don't. Jesus, yes, he gives life. He gives life, but he can also take life as well. I read it again. It says, but with the righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equality for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his loins. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and this right here, this is talking about, of course, at his return, when Christ returns, his second return. It says right here in verse 6, like I said, it talks about his return. It says, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. So when Christ returns, it's going to be peace. Well, of course, when he first returns, he's coming to destroy the wicked, those who have rejected him. He's coming to kill. He's coming to wipe them out off the face of the earth. He's coming to save his child. He's coming to save his children from his wrath on earth. But he's coming to wipe out the wicked, those who have rejected him and turned away from him, continue in sin. He's coming to destroy them. But he's also coming to save his children from his wrath on earth. And once everything's said and done, once Christ does what he has to do, there will, of course, be eternal peace on earth. It says right here, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. It's eternal peace. Right now, if you put a wolf with the lamb, the wolf would kill the lamb and eat it, but because of sin. But once Christ comes back and does what he has to do, there will be no more sin. There will be no more evil and corruption in the world. It will be eternal peace for all eternity. It will be heaven on earth, pretty much. It says, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the lion and the fattened calf together, and a little child shall lead them. Think about that. You have the most ferocious animals you can think of, and yet a little child is going to lead them, and is going to play with them. That's how it's going to be when Christ returns. It's going to be total peace for those who are saved. Those who are not saved are going to face eternal damnation. But those who are saved, they're going to live in eternal peace, paradise, with the world's most ferocious animals. They're going to be so peaceful and loving to you, to where even a little child can lead them. It's pretty awesome. It says, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the nursing child shall play over the hole of the cobra. Think about that. An infant now, a nursing child, shall play over the hole of the cobra. Can you imagine that? A little child, a little infant child, playing with the cobra, and the cobra isn't gonna hurt it because there's no more sin. It's eternal peace. It's pretty awesome. That's how it's going to be when Christ returns. The nursing child or infant shall play over the hole of the cobra, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the adders or the snake's den. It's just amazing how, at the return of Christ, there's going to be eternal peace, and to where you have these ferocious animals, living in peace with each other, loving each other, and you will have these little kids playing with these ferocious animals in peace and in love. It's awesome. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. In that day, read that again. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. In that day the root of Jesse, who shall stand as a signal for the people, of him shall the nations inquire, and his resting place shall be glorious. In that day the Lord will extend his hand yet a second time to recover the remnant that remains of his people. From Assyria, which is northern Iraq, which is the Iraq-Turkey border, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, which is Ethiopia today, from Elam, which is Iran, from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the coastlands of the sea, which is of course the Mediterranean Sea today. He will raise a signal for the nations, and will assemble the banished of Israel, and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The jealousy of Ephraim shall depart, and those who harass Judah shall be cut off or killed. Ephraim shall not be jealous of Judah, and Judah shall not harass Ephraim, but they shall swoop down on the shoulder of the Philistines in the west, and together they shall plunder the people of the east. They shall put out their hand against Edom and Moab, which is Jordan, and the Ammonites shall obey them, which is Jordan. And the Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt, which is of course talking about let me read that again, verse 15. And the Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt. That could be talking about right there in the mouth of the Nile River, or the Mediterranean River, or Mediterranean Sea flows into the Nile River. Or it could be talking about the Nile River as well. God could be talking about that He's going to destroy the Nile. It says, and will have His hand over the river, which is the Euphrates River, with His scorching breath, and strike it into 7 channels, and He will lead people across in sandals, and there will be a highway from Assyria, or the Turkey-Iraq border, for the remnant that remains of His people, as there was for Israel when they came up from the land of Egypt. So this is some of this is prophecy. I mean, most of it is. It talks about, of course, when Christ returns, how everything will be at peace. You'll have animals playing with each other. You have little babies, little kids playing with animals. You'll have when Christ returns, He talks about how He's going to destroy all these nations that come against Israel. He's going to destroy them. Talks about Syria, Egypt, Pathros, Cush, which is Ethiopia. Assyria is, of course, where the Iraq-Turkey border is at today. Egypt, Pathros, Cush, which is Ethiopia, Elam, which is Iran. Of course, Iran's calling to attack Israel as we speak. They've been saying that for years now, but God's going to destroy them. Shinar, Hamath, and the coastlands of the sea, which is the Mediterranean Sea, is talking about. It says that, of course, He will destroy the nations to come against Israel. And we're about to see this very soon. And it's going to be World War III, pretty much. Especially, and this talks about this in Ezekiel 38-39. Talks about when Israel attacks Iran, it's going to bring all these nations against Israel. It's going to bring Russia, Iran, of course, possibly China, and all these other Muslim nations that surround Israel will come against Israel. And that's why all these terrorists right now are taking over these countries that are surrounding Israel. And they're taking over Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, I think Ethiopia, Yemen. Of course, you've got Iran, of course. You have Syria, Lebanon. You got the Palestinians. You got all these people around Israel who hate Israel and who's calling to attack Israel, especially Iran, and of course Russia and China back Iran. So it's just going to be a mess. But when all these nations come against Israel, God's going to wipe them out. It's going to be World War III, but God's going to defend Israel, and God's going to wipe out Israel's enemies. It says, but that's what it's talking about here, that He's going to wipe out their enemies when they come to attack Israel. So, which I believe is talking about, World War III. That's what I believe it's talking about. It seems like it's talking about, end times. And most of the Old Testament prophets prophesy, end times. Very interesting chapter. Verse 11 is. But that's chapter 11, and I'll be back with chapter 12 here shortly.